I received a friend request from my dead sister. The notification appeared on my phone at 3:47 in the morning, the blue glow cutting through the darkness of my bedroom like a knife. My finger hovered over the screen, trembling so violently I nearly dropped the device. The profile picture was unmistakable. It was her, the same photo from her junior year, the one where she's wearing that ridiculous oversized sweater she'd stolen from our dad's closet. Her smile bright and unguarded in a way that made my chest constrict even now. 10 years after we'd buried her, I sat up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs with such force I could hear the pulse in my ears. The rationale part of my brain screamed that this was impossible, that someone was playing a cruel joke, that there had to be an explanation. But my finger had already moved, accepting the request before my conscious mind could stop it. The moment I did, a message appeared. Just 3 words that made the blood drain from my face. I'm still here. Please leave a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from and get the conversation going. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and support this channel. Back to the story, my name is Rebecca. Before that night, if anyone had asked me what my life was like, I would have said it was quiet, manageable. I was 32 years old, working as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm in Portland, living alone in a studio apartment that smelled perpetually of the coffee shop below. I'd built a life of careful routines and controlled spaces, a life where nothing unexpected could hurt me. My younger sister had died when I was 22 and she was 17. A car accident, they'd told us. She'd been driving home from a party, lost control on a wet road, and hit a tree. The funeral had been closed casket. I'd never gotten to say goodbye. In the decades since, I'd learned to live with the absence. I'd learned to smile when my mother brought her up at family dinners, to nod sympathetically when my father grew quiet and distant on the anniversary of her death. I'd learned to pack away my grief in neat compartments, to function as though a part of me hadn't been ripped away that night. I thought I'd made peace with it. I thought I knew the truth. I was wrong about everything. That morning, after staring at those 3 words until my eyes burned, I didn't go back to sleep. I sat in my bed as the darkness outside my window gradually lightened to gray, then to the pale pink of dawn. My phone lay beside me, screen dark now, but I couldn't stop glancing at it. Every few minutes, I'd pick it up, unlock it, and stare at the message thread. No new messages appeared. The profile showed no activity, no posts, no friends list, nothing but that single photo and those 3 impossible words. At 6:30, I called my mother. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice thick with sleep and confusion. "Rebecca, what's wrong? It's not even 7. Mom." My voice came out hoarse, unfamiliar. "Did you get a friend request? From her?" The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard it, a sharp intake of breath followed by something that might have been a sob or might have been a laugh. "Oh, honey, you got one too?" My stomach dropped. "You've seen it. Yesterday morning. I thought I was losing my mind." Her voice wavered. "I didn't accept it. I couldn't. I deleted the app entirely. Your father said it was some kind of bot, some horrible algorithm that scrapes old photos and creates fake accounts. He said I should report it and move on." "But what if it's not?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "What if someone knows something? What if there's something we don't know about what happened?" Another long pause. When my mother spoke again, her voice had changed. It was colder, harder, the voice she used when discussing unpleasant necessities like root canals or tax audits. "Rebecca, your sister died 10 years ago. We buried her, we grieved. This is someone's sick idea of a joke, or it's a glitch. Or it's something, but it's not her. It can't be her. You need to delete it and move on." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream that she was wrong, that something was off, that we'd never actually seen the body, that there had always been questions I'd been too afraid to ask. But I didn't. I said goodbye and hung up, then sat staring at my phone for another 20 minutes before forcing myself to get ready for work. The office was the same as always. Fluorescent lights, the constant hum of computers, the smell of burnt coffee from the break room. I moved through my morning on autopilot, responding to emails, reviewing spreadsheets, attending a meeting about quarterly projections that I absorbed not a single word of. My coworker Jennifer asked if I was feeling okay. I told her I hadn't slept well. She nodded sympathetically and offered me her bottle of ibuprofen. At lunch, I locked myself in a bathroom stall and opened the messaging app again. The profile was still there, still active. I scrolled through it obsessively, looking for any detail that might tell me who was behind it. The account had been created 3 days ago. There were no other photos, no posts, no information beyond that single image and those 3 words. My fingers moved before I could second guess myself, typing out a message. Who is this? What do you want? I hit send and immediately regretted it. What was I doing? My mother was right. This was a sick joke or a bot or some kind of scam. I should delete it, block it, report it. But I didn't. I sat there in that bathroom stall, my lunch growing cold on my lap, and waited. The response came at 2:47 p.m., exactly 11 hours after the friend request had appeared. You don't remember, do you? What really happened that night? My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone into the toilet. I had to read the message 3 times before the words properly registered. What really happened that night? As if the official story, the one we'd all been told and retold until it became gospel, wasn't the truth. As if there was something else, something hidden. I typed back with fumbling fingers. I know what happened. There was an accident. Please, whoever you are, this isn't funny. The response was immediate this time. It wasn't an accident, and you know more than you think you do. Check the box in the attic, the one marked winter clothes. Bottom left corner. I stared at the message until the words blurred. A box in the attic. Winter clothes. How would anyone know about that? How would anyone know that my parents still lived in the same house, that they'd never cleaned out the attic, that everything from our childhood was still up there, packed away in cardboard boxes and plastic bins like a museum of our former lives? I left work early claiming a migraine. My supervisor barely looked up from her computer as I mumbled my excuse and grabbed my bag. The drive to my parents' house took 45 minutes in afternoon traffic, 45 minutes during which I constructed and demolished a dozen different explanations for what was happening. A hacker who'd accessed old family photos, a former friend with a grudge, a stranger who'd somehow pieced together details from social media and public records. None of the explanations felt right. None of them explained how whoever this was knew about the attic, about the specific box, about the things we'd never discussed publicly. My parents' house sat at the end of a quiet suburban street, a 2-story colonial with fading blue shutters and a garden my mother had stopped tending after the funeral. I'd grown up in this house. I'd learned to ride a bike in that driveway, broken my arm falling from that oak tree, kissed my first boyfriend on that front porch. My sister had died while living in this house, and somehow it had never stopped feeling like hers, like she might walk through the door at any moment and complain about the music I was playing, or steal the last slice of pizza from the fridge. I used my old key to let myself in. The house was empty. My father would be at work for another 3 hours, and my mother had mentioned something about a book club meeting. I stood in the entryway for a moment, breathing in the familiar scent of lemon furniture polish and the lavender potpourri my mother kept in bowls throughout the house. Then I climbed the stairs to the second floor and pulled down the attic ladder. The attic was exactly as I remembered it, hot, dusty, filled with the accumulated debris of decades. Christmas decorations, old furniture, boxes and boxes of things too sentimental to throw away, but too painful to look at. I found the box marked winter clothes after 10 minutes of searching. It was shoved into the far corner, partially hidden behind a broken exercise bike and a stack of National Geographic magazines my father had been saving since 1987. I dragged it into the light filtering through the single small window. My hands left clean tracks through the dust on the lid. The box hadn't been opened in years, maybe not since we'd packed it. I pulled off the tape, which came away easily, brittle with age, and lifted the flaps. Winter clothes, just as promised. Sweaters and coats and scarves, most of them too small now, relics of our teenage years. I pulled them out, one by one, setting them aside carefully. A red pea coat my sister had loved, a green scarf I'd knitted in home economics class, a purple sweater with a snowflake pattern that neither of us would admit to owning. At the bottom of the box, beneath everything else, was something that didn't belong, a shoebox, unmarked, sealed with duct tape. My heart was already racing before I touched it, some instinct warning me that whatever was inside would change everything. I peeled away the tape slowly, my fingers clumsy with nerves and anticipation. Inside was a phone. Not a new phone, but an old flip phone, the kind we'd used back when my sister was alive. The kind that could only make calls and send texts. No internet, no social media, no apps. It was silver, scratched and dented, clearly well used. There was a charger coiled beneath it and a folded piece of paper. I unfolded the paper with shaking hands. The handwriting was immediately recognizable. My sister's. Loopy and dramatic, all the I's dotted with hearts, exactly the way she'd written in the margins of her notebooks and on birthday cards, and in the journal I'd found hidden under her mattress after she died. If you're reading this, something happened to me. I need you to know the truth. Charge the phone, read everything. Don't trust what they told you. I love you. I'm sorry. I sat there on the dusty attic floor, holding my dead sister's handwriting, and felt the world I'd carefully constructed over the past 10 years begin to crack and splinter. The shoebox contained something else, too, a small plastic bag with a folded photograph inside. I pulled it out with numb fingers and stared at the image. It was a photo of my sister, but not one I'd ever seen before. She was sitting in a car, the passenger seat, and she wasn't smiling. She looked terrified. The photo had been taken from outside the car through the window, and you could see someone else in the driver's seat. Just a silhouette, no features visible, but definitely there. Someone had been with her. The official story had always been that she'd been alone in the car that night, alone when she lost control, alone when she hit the tree, alone when she died. I grabbed the phone and the charger and scrambled down from the attic. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely plug the charger into the wall outlet in my old bedroom, the room I'd shared with my sister until I'd left for college. I sat on what had been my bed, now stripped to the mattress, and used for storage and waited for the phone to charge enough to turn on. It took 15 minutes that felt like 15 hours. When the screen finally flickered to life, I was greeted by a password prompt. 4 digits. I tried her birthday. Nothing. I tried mine. Nothing. I tried the date she died. The phone unlocked. The text messages loaded slowly, one by one. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, months and months of conversations. I scrolled to the beginning, to the earliest messages sent more than a year before her death. The number they were sent to and from wasn't saved in the contacts, just digits, but the conversation was clear enough. The first message was from my sister. You said you'd leave me alone if I did what you wanted. You promised. The response. And I will. One more thing. Just one more. I scrolled faster, my stomach churning. The messages painted a picture I didn't want to see, couldn't bear to see, but couldn't look away from. Someone had been blackmailing my sister. Someone had been forcing her to do things, steal things from our parents' house, lie about where she was going, meet them in secret. The messages never specified exactly what she was doing or why, just vague references to tasks and promises and threats. If you tell anyone, I'll show everyone what you did. Your family will never forgive you. Please, I can't do this anymore. I'm scared. You should be scared. Do what I say or everything comes out. The messages continued for months, becoming more frequent and more urgent. My sister's responses grew more desperate, more frightened. Whoever was doing this to her had her trapped. And then, 3 days before she died, the messages changed. I'm going to tell someone. I don't care anymore. This has to stop. You won't. You're too weak. Watch me. I'm done being scared of you. The final message was sent the night she died at 10:36 p.m. from the unknown number. Get in the car. We need to talk. If you don't come, I send everything to your family tonight. There was no response from my sister. No more messages after that. The conversation just stopped. I sat there, staring at the phone, barely breathing, Someone had forced my sister into a car the night she died. Someone had been terrorizing her for months. Someone had killed her, or been there when she died, and then lied about it. And we'd believed the lie. We'd accepted the story of a tragic accident, buried her, grieved her, moved on. Except someone hadn't moved on. Someone had kept this phone, hidden it, and now, 10 years later, had created a fake profile to lead me to it. Why? Why now? Why me? My own phone buzzed. Another message from the account. Now you know, but you don't know everything. You don't know who. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. I'll send you the address. If you tell anyone, you'll never know the truth. I should have called the police right then. I should have shown someone the phone, the messages, the photo. I should have done anything except what I actually did, which was sit there in my childhood bedroom and type back a single word. Where? The days that had followed my sister's death had been a blur of grief and confusion, and the strange bureaucratic rituals that accompany tragedy, the wake, the funeral, the endless parade of casseroles from neighbors who didn't know what else to do. I remembered very little of it clearly, just fragments. My mother's face, blank and distant. My father's hands, shaking as he signed paperwork. The closed casket, draped in white roses. The way everyone had looked at me with such pity, as if I might shatter at any moment. I'd been in my second year of college, home for the summer, working a part-time job at a bookstore downtown. My sister had been about to start her senior year of high school. We'd been sharing a bathroom again, fighting over the hairdryer and whose turn it was to clean the sink. Normal sister things, annoying, petty, meaningless things that I would have given anything to fight about again. The night she died, I'd been at a movie with friends. She'd told our parents she was staying over at her best friend's house. She'd been lying. I'd gotten the call from my mother at 11:43 p.m., her voice so strange and high-pitched, I hadn't recognized it at first. There had been an accident. I needed to come home right away. When I'd arrived, there were police cars in the driveway, their lights painting the neighborhood in red and blue. My father had met me at the door. He'd told me she was gone, just like that. Gone. I'd never questioned it. None of us had. Why would we? The police had been sympathetic but clear. Wet roads, excessive speed, a single vehicle accident, tragic but not uncommon. We'd been shown her personal effects, returned to us in a clear plastic bag. Her wallet, her keys, her phone, shattered beyond repair. They'd explained that the damage to the vehicle and to her body had been too severe for an open casket. We'd accepted it. What else could we do? But now, sitting in my old bedroom with her secret phone in my hands, I understood that we'd been lied to, systematically, completely lied to, and someone in my family had known. Someone had to have known. The address came through at midnight, a location I didn't recognize, coordinates for somewhere in the industrial district on the east side of the river. The message included a time, 2 a.m., the same time I realized with a chill that my sister had died 10 years ago. 2 a.m. on a Friday morning in late September. I didn't sleep. I couldn't have slept if I'd tried. I lay in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, turning over possibilities in my mind. Who had known? Who could have hidden this phone, kept this secret, stayed silent for 10 years while we all grieved and moved on? My parents, my sister's friends, someone else entirely? At 1:15 a.m., I got in my car and started driving. I knew I should tell someone where I was going. I knew this was dangerous, possibly stupid, exactly the kind of thing that gets people killed in horror movies and true crime podcasts. But I also knew I had to go. I had to know the truth. After 10 years of living with a lie, I had to know. The industrial district was dark and empty at this hour. Abandoned warehouses and shuttered factories, chain link fences topped with barbed wire, broken streetlights that cast everything in shadow. I followed my GPS to the coordinates, which led me to a parking lot outside what looked like an old shipping facility. A single car was already there, parked under one of the few working lights. I didn't recognize it. I parked 20 feet away and sat with my engine running, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had gone white. The other car's door opened. A figure stepped out. Even from this distance, even in the dim light, I recognized the shape of them, the way they moved. It was my uncle, my father's younger brother. He walked toward my car slowly, his hands held up, as if to show he wasn't a threat. I rolled down my window an inch, my phone clutched in my other hand, 911 already dialed, my finger hovering over the call button. Rebecca. His voice was rough, strained. I'm sorry, God, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this. You. The word came out as barely a whisper. You were the one messaging me? He nodded. He looked older than I remembered, gray creeping into his hair, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. I created the account. I sent you the messages. I needed you to find that phone. I needed someone to know the truth. Why now? Why wait 10 years? He looked away toward the dark buildings surrounding us. Because I've been trying to live with it, trying to pretend it didn't happen the way it did. But I can't anymore. I can't keep protecting him. Protecting who? But even as I asked, I knew there was only one person my uncle would protect at any cost, only one person whose secret he would keep, even at the expense of the truth. Your father. The words hung in the air between us. Your father was the one blackmailing her. Your father was in the car that night. The world seemed to tilt. I gripped the steering wheel harder, trying to anchor myself to something solid, something real. That's not possible. He loved her. He grieved for her. He still can't even say her name without crying. I know. My uncle's voice broke. That's what makes it so much worse. He did love her, but he was desperate. He'd gotten himself into trouble. Bad investments, gambling debts. I don't even know all of it. He was about to lose everything. The house, his job, his reputation. He was drowning. What does that have to do with her? He found out she'd been dealing drugs, small-time stuff, just selling to kids at school to make some extra money. She was 17 and stupid and thought it was harmless. He told her he'd turn her in, ruin her life, unless she helped. He made her steal from her own dealers, made her set up deals so he could rob them. She was just a kid, and he used her like a tool. I felt bile rising in my throat. The messages, that was him. I didn't know about any of it until after she died. He called me that night hysterical, said there'd been an accident. When I got there, I saw the car. I saw her. And I saw him, covered in blood, shaken, telling me she'd tried to jump out while they were driving. Said she'd threatened to tell everyone, so he was driving her somewhere to talk her down. And she'd panicked and grabbed the wheel. The car went off the road. The tree. He stopped, his face twisting. He begged me to help him. Said it was an accident, that he'd never meant for any of it to happen. Said if the truth came out, it would destroy the whole family. So you helped him cover it up. I called it in as a single vehicle accident. I got rid of her phone, the one that had all his messages. I made sure the police report was clean. I did everything he asked because he's my brother, and I thought I was protecting the family. He laughed, a bitter sound. But I couldn't get rid of everything. She'd hidden that phone, the backup one. I found it months later when I was helping your parents clean out her room. I couldn't bring myself to destroy it. I kept it, hid it. Thought maybe someday I'd be brave enough to come forward, but I wasn't. I just kept living the lie. Until now. Until now. Because the guilt is killing me. Because your mother deserves to know the truth. Because your sister deserves justice, even if it's 10 years late. He took a step closer. I need you to take that phone to the police. I need you to tell them everything. I'll back you up. I'll testify. I'll go to prison if I have to, but this has to end. I stared at him. This man I'd known my whole life, who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd slipped me $20 bills at birthdays, who'd sobbed at my sister's funeral. This man who'd helped cover up her murder. My father. I could barely form the words. Did he mean to kill her? I don't know. He says it was an accident, that she grabbed the wheel, that he lost control. But does it matter? He spent months terrorizing her. He put her in that car. He created the situation that got her killed. Accident or not, he's responsible. I looked down at the phone in my lap. My sister's phone, the evidence that would destroy what was left of my family. My father would go to prison. My uncle would go to prison. My mother would lose her husband. I would lose my father. Everything we'd built, everything we'd believed would collapse. Why me? I asked. Why not just go to the police yourself? Because I'm a coward, because I needed someone else to make me do it, and because you deserve to know. You deserve to understand what really happened to your sister, even if it destroys you. He was right. It was destroying me. I could feel it happening, feel the foundation of my life cracking and crumbling beneath me. But I also felt something else, a clarity I hadn't experienced in 10 years. The truth, as terrible as it was, made sense in a way the lie never had. The closed casket, my father's excessive grief, the way he'd isolated himself, the way my mother had thrown herself into charity work as if trying to compensate for something, the way no one had wanted to talk about the details of the accident, rushing past them whenever they came up. We'd all known on some level. We'd all sensed that something was wrong. We'd just been too afraid to look at it directly. I got out of my car. The night air was cold, carrying the smell of the river and rust from the old buildings around us. My uncle stood very still, watching me, waiting for my decision. I need to see him first, I said. Before I go to the police, I need to hear it from him. Rebecca, I don't think that's a good idea. He's desperate. If he thinks you know, he might what? Kill me too. I laughed, surprising myself. He's my father. He deserves a chance to tell me himself, to explain, to confess. My uncle looked like he wanted to argue, but he just nodded. Okay, but I'm coming with you. I won't let him hurt you. Fine, let's go. We drove in separate cars back to my parents' house. It was nearly 3 in the morning now, the streets empty, the city sleeping. The house was dark except for a single light in the living room. My father was awake. I used my key again, moving quietly even though I knew stealth didn't matter anymore. My uncle followed close behind me. We found my father in his recliner, staring at the television with the sound off. He looked up when we entered, and I saw the moment he understood, the moment he knew that I knew. Rebecca, his voice was hoarse. What are you doing here so late? I held up the phone. I found this in the attic in a box marked winter clothes. All the color drained from his face. He looked at my uncle, then back at me. I can explain. Then explain. Explain how you blackmailed your own daughter. Explain how you got her killed. Explain how you let us all believe it was an accident for 10 years. My voice was steady, cold. I barely recognized it as my own. He stood up slowly, his hands shaking. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I never meant for any of it to happen. I was just trying to fix my mistakes. I was trying to save us. By using her, by threatening her, by putting her in danger. She was dealing drugs. She was already in danger. I thought if I could use that, if I could leverage it, I could solve both our problems. Get the money I needed, scare her straight, everyone wins. Except she died. That was an accident. She panicked. She tried to grab the wheel. The car went off the road. I never wanted that. I loved her. She was my daughter. Then why did you cover it up? Why did you lie? He sank back into his chair, his face crumpling. Because I was afraid. Because I knew how it would look. Because I thought if I could just make it go away, pretend it was a simple accident, I could protect what was left of the family. Protect you. Protect your mother. You didn't protect us. You condemned us to live a lie. I know. Tears were streaming down his face now. I know. And I've paid for it every single day since. The guilt is eating me alive. I see her every time I close my eyes. I hear her voice. I can't sleep. I can't breathe. I'm dying inside, Rebecca. I looked at this man, my father, the man who'd raised me, taught me to swim, helped me with my homework, walked me down the aisle at my wedding. This man who'd killed my sister and let me believe a lie for 10 years. Good, I said. You should be dying inside, but that's not enough. You're going to confess. You're going to tell the police everything, and you're going to face whatever consequences come. I can't. If I confess, I'll lose everything. Your mother, you, my freedom. I'll die in prison. You should have thought of that before you got into that car with her. He looked at me with something like hope. Please, Rebecca, please don't do this. I'm begging you. I'm your father. No. The word came out flat, final. You stopped being my father the moment you threatened her, the moment you used her, the moment you let us bury her while hiding the truth. I don't know what you are, but you're not my father anymore. I pulled out my phone, my real phone, and dialed 911. My father lurched forward, reaching for me, but my uncle stepped between us. Don't, it's over, the operator answered. I heard myself speaking, heard the words coming out calm and clear. I need to report a murder, a 10-year-old case that was covered up as an accident. I have evidence. I need detectives to come to this address immediately. My father collapsed back into his chair, sobbing. My uncle stood rigid, waiting. I stayed on the line with the operator, answering questions, providing details, until I heard the sirens approaching in the distance. My mother came downstairs in her bathrobe, confused and frightened by the commotion. She saw me, my uncle, my father crying. What's happening? Rebecca, what's going on? I looked at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd loved my sister, who'd buried her child without knowing the truth. Mom, sit down. There's something you need to know. The police arrived as I was explaining. Detectives, uniformed officers, eventually forensics teams. They took the phone. They took my father into custody. They questioned me, my uncle, my mother. The house that had been dark and quiet an hour before was suddenly blazing with lights and activity, official voices, and radio chatter, and the mechanical clicking of cameras documenting everything. I watched them lead my father away in handcuffs. He looked back once, his eyes meeting mine. I saw desperation there, and grief, and perhaps a plea for forgiveness. I looked away. I couldn't give him what he wanted. I couldn't forgive the unforgivable. My mother sat on the couch, stunned into silence. When the police finally left, when it was just the two of us in the living room with the dawn breaking outside, she spoke for the first time in hours. I should have known. There were signs, little things that didn't add up, but I didn't want to see them. None of us wanted to see them. Do you hate me? For not knowing? For not protecting her? I sat down beside her. I don't hate you. You're a victim too. We all are. She started crying then, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. I held her while she cried for the daughter she'd lost, and the husband she thought she knew, and the life that had just been revealed as a lie. I cried too, finally, for the first time since finding that phone. We cried until we had nothing left. The trial was 6 months later. The evidence from the phone, combined with my uncle's testimony and a re-examination of the original accident scene, built a case that was impossible to refute. My father pleaded guilty to manslaughter, blackmail, and evidence tampering. My uncle pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact. Both were sentenced to prison time. The media coverage was brutal. Our family became a cautionary tale, a true crime story, the subject of podcast episodes and news articles and online speculation. People I'd never met had opinions about what my father had done, what my uncle had done, what my mother and I should have known. Our lives became public property, dissected and analyzed by strangers. My mother and I sold the house. Neither of us could stand to be there anymore, surrounded by memories that had been poisoned by the truth. She moved to a small apartment across town. I stayed in my studio, but everything felt different now. The routine I'd built, the careful life I'd constructed, had been demolished. I had to build something new from the rubble. The friend request that had started everything stayed active for 3 more days after I went to the police. Then it disappeared, deleted. My uncle admitted he'd created it, used a VPN and fake information, created the whole digital trail leading me to the truth. It had been his way of confessing without confessing, of forcing the issue without having to be the one to pull the trigger. I couldn't decide if I should thank him or hate him for it. Maybe both. I visited my sister's grave for the first time in years. The headstone was simple, just her name and dates and the word beloved. I sat in the grass beside it and told her everything. Told her I knew the truth now. Told her I was sorry it took so long. Told her that justice, delayed as it was, had finally come. I'd brought flowers, white roses, the same ones that had been on her casket. As I arranged them in the built-in vase, I noticed something. Another bouquet, fresh, already there. Yellow daisies, her favorite. There was a card attached. I opened it, with shaking hands. The handwriting inside wasn't my uncle's, wasn't my father's, wasn't anyone's I recognized. Just 2 sentences in neat, unfamiliar script. Thank you for not giving up on me. I can rest now. I looked around the cemetery. It was empty. No one in sight. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, carrying away the last of the autumn leaves. I thought about ghosts, about the stories we tell ourselves, about whether the dead ever really rest. Maybe my sister had sent that friend request after all. Maybe she'd found a way to reach across whatever divide separates the living from the dead, to set in motion the chain of events that would reveal the truth. Maybe there are things beyond our understanding, forces that push toward justice even when the living try to bury it. Or maybe it was just my uncle creating one more mystery, one more moment of doubt to give us something to wonder about. Maybe the card had been there for days, left by someone who'd known and loved my sister, someone with their own grief and their own need for closure. I'll never know for certain. But as I stood there in that cemetery with the sun breaking through the clouds and the flowers bright against the grass, I decided it didn't matter. The truth was known now. The lies had been exposed. My sister could rest, and maybe eventually, so could I. I still have the phone. The police returned it to me after the trial. Evidence no longer needed. I keep it in a drawer in my apartment, charged and working. Sometimes I take it out and read through the messages, reminding myself of what happened, of what she went through. It's a memorial of sorts, a record of her suffering and her courage and the terrible choices made by the people who should have protected her. I never accepted another friend request from a dead person, but I did join a support group for families affected by true crime. I met people who understood what it was like to have your life turned inside out by revelation, to discover that everything you thought you knew was wrong. We shared our stories. We helped each other rebuild. My mother started going to therapy. She stopped talking to my father entirely. She changed her name, moved to a different state, tried to start over. We talk on the phone once a week. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we laugh. We're learning how to be a family of two, how to honor my sister's memory without being destroyed by it. I changed too. I left my job at the accounting firm and went back to school studying social work. I wanted to help people, to do something meaningful with the knowledge that life is short and precious and can be stolen by the people who should cherish it most. I work now with at-risk youth, kids who are making the kinds of choices my sister made, who are vulnerable to the kinds of predators my father became. I try to see them, really see them, in a way no one saw my sister until it was too late. On the anniversary of her death, I go back to that cemetery. I bring flowers, I sit with her, I tell her about my life, about the changes, about the slow, painful work of healing, and I thank her. Thank her for reaching out across death to set me free from the lie we'd all been living. Thank her for trusting me with the truth, even though it destroyed everything. Sometimes in the quiet moments, I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd never gotten that friend request, if I'd never gone to the attic, never found the phone, never learned the truth. Would I have been happier living in ignorance? Would the lie have been easier than the truth? But then I remember those three words that started everything. I'm still here. And I understand that my sister never really left. She'd been waiting, patient and persistent, for someone to hear her, to see her, to believe her. And when I finally did, when I finally accepted that friend request and followed the breadcrumbs she'd left, I didn't just uncover a decade-old crime. I found my sister again. Not the sanitized memory we'd preserved, but the real her, flawed and frightened and trapped, but also brave and clever, and determined that the truth would eventually come out. She's still here, in the flowers on her grave, in the work I do, in the lives I try to save, in the memory of who she really was, not who we pretended she was. She's still here, and she always will be. The notification that appeared on my phone that night wasn't just a message from beyond the grave. It was a promise kept, a truth revealed, a sister reaching across the void to save the living from a lie. And I'm grateful, even though it cost me everything I thought I knew, even though it shattered my family beyond repair, even though some days the weight of the truth feels too heavy to bear. Because the alternative, living with a lie, never knowing, always sensing something was wrong, but never having the courage to look directly at it, that would have been worse. That would have been a different kind of death, a slow suffocation of the soul. So when people ask me if I wish I'd never accepted that friend request, I tell them the truth. I tell them that the truth, no matter how terrible, is always better than a comfortable lie. I tell them that my sister died, but her voice didn't, that justice can be delayed but not forever denied, that the dead don't always stay silent, and sometimes late at night, when I'm alone in my apartment and the city is quiet around me, I open that old phone and read through the messages again, not to torture myself, but to remember, to bear witness, to make sure that what happened to my sister is never forgotten, never minimized, never dismissed. She sent me a friend request from beyond the grave, and in accepting it, I gave her back her voice. I gave her back her story. I gave her back her truth. It's the least I could do. It's the only thing I could do. She's still here. And because of that, I'm still here too, still fighting, still healing, still learning how to live in a world where the people you trust most can be the ones who hurt you worst. Still believing, despite everything, that truth matters, that justice matters, that the dead deserve to be remembered for who they really were, not who we wish they'd been. I received a friend request from my dead sister, and it saved my life. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment below, let me know where you listened from, and get the conversation going. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and support this channel. With love and respect, Katura.